the seaward lands of the Great Glen, among the first to rally to the Prince's standard at Glenfinnan a year before. 700 waited for their chief to roar, "Cuaimh Mór," the order to charge. Beside them, the Stuarts of Appin, from the fertile Low Country to the east of the Firth of Lorne, were also growing restive. There was a regiment of Campbells in the government army, their treacherous and Protestant southern neighbours who had plundered Stuart glens and reaved Stuart cattle. Culloden was a battle for a kingdom, no doubt, but it was also a battle between clans. Charles Stuart of Ardshiel was tutor to the chief, who was still a child, and he had the honour of leading the charge of the Appin men. A great swordsman and tall, he would be the first of his name to reach the enemy. With the Stuarts stood their client clans, MacCalls, Carmichaels, Livingstons and Macleays. Pinned to their bonnets, each man wore a sprig of green oak leaves, their clan badge. Lord George and the Athol Brigade had cut sprigs of broom, and the Lochaber men also wore oak. All wore plaids, soaked through by now, but none could be recognised by a distinctive tartan. Many men wore more than one set, and all had the white cockade, a rosette of white ribbon for the Jacobite cause, in prominent show. Lord John Drummond commanded the centre. Behind him was the Fraser Regiment, 300 men expecting to be reinforced by Lord Lovat's company. He was hurrying to Inverness on the morning of the battle, but his men would never reach the moor. Like the Mingis and the Grants, the Frasers were a Norman-French clan, descended from 12th century plantations of immigrants in the north, and Frisial, the Gaelic version of the name, betrays the derivation from La Freslière, a lordship in Anjou. Few of the Norse clans of the Western Isles came out for the prince in 1745. Murdoch would find some MacLeods at Culloden, but few MacSweens, MacIvors or Macaulays, the ancient sons of Sween, Ivor and Olaf. But the Wildcats were there. The old Pictish confederacy of Clan Hatton were drawn up next to the Frasers. There were Macintoshes, MacBains, MacGilverys and Farquharsons from Balmoral, and some were fighting on that terrible day on their clan lands. Beyond the ranks of the Wildcats were small regiments of Macleans from Mull and Sunart, and Chisholms from the high mountain country west of Loch Ness. They were led by a priest, Donald Chisholm, for the chief, MacIan, was too old to fight. One of his sons, Ruairi Och, led a clan company, while two of his older brothers had joined the Royal Scots and enlisted in the government army. Culloden was also a battle between families. On the left wing, and insulted to be there, stood the MacDonald regiments, Glengarry, Keppoch and Clanranald. Their chiefs had once been lords of the Isles, the great Atlantic principality of the clans, and after helping Robert the Bruce to victory at Bannockburn in 1314, they had held the place of honour in Scottish battle lines for 4 centuries. But not on that day, and because of the ground, the men of Clan Donald stood some way further back, 700 yards from the Redcoat ranks. On a ridge immediately to the north of where the MacDonald regiments waited, a group of schoolboys lay in the heather, watching intently as history unfurled below them. Wrapped in their plaids, they had been out all night. Archibald Fraser was 9, and the youngest son of Simon Fraser, Lord Lovat and chief of the name. The boys searched the battle lines for their clans, but Lovat was never to arrive in time with his reinforcements. However, James Mackintosh did see his father, Angus Mackintosh of Farr, march onto the moor at the head of a company in the Clan Hatton regiment. They passed close to where Archibald, James and their friends lay, but the children were so awed and terrified that they did not dare call out or stand up. Although he lived to be 90, James never forgot the look on his father's face. At around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the war pipes were stilled for a moment as the first volley of cannon fire erupted over the moor. Government artillery was immeasurably more effective, and round shot began to tear into the groups of clansmen. Gunners aimed low and hoped that their cannonballs would ricochet off the ground like flat stones skimming over water before ploughing through enemy ranks. It proved a murderous tactic, killing scores of men, maiming more, and it drew a remarkable response. As their standards fluttered and snapped in the driving rain, the clansmen lifted their broadswords, tightened their grip on their targes, and began to summon the army of the dead. For what they would later call